Alright, so these are not that bad if you can remember the one thing that I'll be showing you. Absolute value equations. So let's remember what absolute value means. So if I have absolute value of 4, what does that equal?
4.
And if I have absolute value of -4, what does that equal?
4.
So, and let's just try a couple of algebraic things here. Let's say I did something like this. What would that simplify down to?
3 plus 10.
In the end, it will be positive 13. First, I do this inside. And then the absolute value of -13 is? 13. Yep. And if I did 3 minus 10 in here, like so, I do the 3 minus 10, get -7. Then I get 7 in the end. Okay. Now let's try our thinking, and we'll graph this just so that we can see what's happening. If I do absolute value of 5, that's what?
5.
And the absolute value of -5 is?
5.
Now let's say I wanted to start here and ask the question, well then what was in here? Well, I have two possibilities. That's like saying this. The absolute value of x is 5. Well, what could x be? Well, it could be 5, because the absolute value of 5 is 5. And it could be -5, because the absolute value of -5 is 5. So how many possibilities were there?
2.
2 possibilities. Two possibilities. So really, for absolute value equations, that's all you need to do, is take into account the 2 possibilities. And if you can remember that, you're going to nail them, because they're typically, the equations on the inside of these are not that difficult to do by themselves. The trick is remembering the 2 possibilities. So let's try a few. Alright, let's do this first one. What could x be?
4.
X could be 4 or -4. Pretty easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what about this next one?
8.
It could be 8 or -8.
Now what should I do first here? Subtract 5. Okay, so that's going to be an important fact here in a moment. So we get absolute value of x equals 7. So x could be 7 or -7. What should I do first on this fourth one? Add 7. And I could be x is 10 or x is -10. These are all the very, very easy examples. Don't let them trip you up when we get to the more complicated ones. Now this is a trick question.
Wait.
No solution.
Oh.
Why is it no solution? Well, absolute value always gives a what?
Positive number.
So I can't get an absolute value to be negative. Therefore, this is not a possible scenario. So whenever this happens, this is like celebrate, because you have 0 work to do. Just write no solution as soon as that happens. But now we get into the more complicated absolute value. But luckily, it's not that bad. I'll let you catch up. I can see like fire coming off of your pencils, and Meredith has blisters, and Alexis is smoking out of the ears. You really ought to lay off. You know? It's not good for you.
I'm just chilling.
Okay. What if I have something like this? is like a big kahuna of the big kahuna.
Hey, you're a big
I'm kidding.
I just called Kane the white man. Remember?
No, you call him Blade.
Okay, so here's the big kahuna of the big kahuna. All right, so if we can do this one, we got this. All right, so our first thing, we need to get the absolute value part alone. I'm glad you asked that, and the answer is no. We cannot distribute into things that are not parentheses.
I thought that was like.
It does act like parentheses. This is a group, but it's even higher than parentheses. Like this is the king of the parentheses. You can't breach this wall. Okay, you cannot factor or distribute into absolute value. So let's even note that cannot.
Because it's trumps.
Yeah, this is Trump's like super wall upgraded. You cannot distribute into absolute value. But that's okay because we are going to have a way to get rid of this absolute value stuff. So the first step is to get the absolute value piece alone. So I'm basically going to treat this like look down here. I'm using A to mean absolute value. How do we solve for A?
Plus 5.
First we'd add 5. And then we would... Okay, so the absolute value is going to equal 7. So let's go back up here. We need to do what?
Add 5.
Add 5. We get 21. And we have 3 absolute value, 2x minus 5. Now what?
Divide by 3.
Divide by 3. So we get absolute value, 2x minus 5 equals 7. Now when you're writing your absolute value, make sure they're larger than a 1. That way you don't get confused and think, that way you don't get confused and think that you wrote 12 minus 51. Like, make them big. Alright, I don't need that anymore. Okay, so now we got... Okay, so now that we have it down to here, we have 2 possibilities, right?
Sure.
We have 2 possibilities. All this stuff in here could be -7, because the absolute value of -7 is 7, right? Or all the stuff could be +7 in there. So I have 2 possibilities. So I'm going to always, just because of the stuff that we're going to do on Monday, someone is not in class and they're back. Alright, so all of this stuff we want to get to have it writing the negative possibility on the left and the positive possibility on the right.
Why?
Because of things you'll see on Monday. Or later.
That would sound good.
But, and you can also think of it like this. The smaller number on the left, the bigger number on the right.
Now we
Okay.
solve those.
Now we solve those.
Dang it.
So now we're going to add the 5. So these do take a little while. Divide by 2, and x is -1. Or, add 5, get 12, divide by 2, x is 6. Now here is the fatal mistake that many students do. They do one of these, say this one, and they say, oh, x is -1. Oh, then that must mean x could be 1. Or they do this side and they say, oh, x is 6. Well, then the opposite of that's -6. No. Sometimes it works out that way, but not all the time. So you have to do both possibilities. So let's try another. We'll do baby kahuna.
Can we do no math at all? Okay.
Can we do simple addition?
Okay.
I hate to do that.
What should we do?
Add 5.
Add 5. Okay? Once we get absolute value alone, we have to split it into two possibilities. This stuff in here could be -6, or it could be +6. So 2p plus 3 equals -6. And on the right, 2p plus 3 equal +6. Now we'll subtract 3 and divide by 2. We'll subtract 3 and then divide by 2. And these are our two answers. Walk me through this one, Kaylee. How do I solve this one? Is the absolute value alone?
No. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so now I split it into two possibilities. What are they?
X minus 2 equals -6. Then x minus 2 equals 6.
Yep. Now I add the 2 on this one, and I add the 2 on this one. And there's my two answers. Austin.
Yes, Mr. Campbell.
Walk me through this one. Okay, so 7x could equal?
4, 49, positive 49.
And then what?
Divide.
Now in this one's case, it did work out that it's -7 or 7, but notice all the other ones we've done so far, it did not work out that way. So that's not an assumption that you want to make. Taking good notes there, Barbara? I don't see your notes. Oh, they're on the floor?
You know where my notes are? They're here.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
They're invisible. That's how good they are.
Ooh.
0.
Shadow of black light that shows up.
3 good.
All right. Who is going to walk me through this one?
Nope.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, guys, if the absolute value is
It's
alone,
going to be 4, -4.
yeah, we just split it up. -4 or 4. Easy. Nothing really to do there.
Small.
How about this one?
Subtract 2.
Is the absolute value alone?
Yes.
Now we split it. When once all we have on one side is an absolute value, we split it up. So we get n equals
6.
or -6. -6 or 6. This one.
Add 10.
Once the absolute value is alone, we split it into two possibilities, and the negative one will go on the left. So x could be,
-7.
or x could be.
7.
What do I need to do first on this one?
Add 3.
Careful. This is -3 times, so I divide by -3. Now there's no inequality here, so I don't have to flip anything. Absolute value of x is 2, then what?
You do those.
-2.
Or,
X equals positive.
yep. All right, this one is a dumb kahuna. What do we do first?
Divide.
So we get what on the left?
3.
-3. And then you're very tempted to say x could be -3 or 3, but no, absolute value always gives us a positive, so it's no solution. Okay? Now, if you're Mr. or Ms. Amazing Pants, or you're in honors, you need to be able to do the following types.
Why didn't you just put Ms. Because it's only Ms.
Well, you're not married, are you?
No.
That's Mrs.
Rachel,
There's a
you're a
Ms.
mister.
Whoa.
Okay? Notice I have some x's that are not in the absolute value. But I need to we still get the absolute value alone. So to get the absolute value alone, what must I do?
Add 3.
Add 3. So now I get 2x plus 11 on the right, and I have absolute value x plus 5 on the left. Now I don't know whether this is positive or negative over here, but I still do the 2 possibilities. So possibility 1, let's check out, is x plus 5 equals, switch all those signs. Oops, not a 10. 11. Or the positive version, keep all the signs the same. Now I solve both of these. How would I solve this one?
Subtract 5. Or you could add.
Let's add the 2x first.
A variable.
Get the variables to one side first. Now what?
Subtract 5.
And then,
Divide by 3.
now I want to note that's just about negative 5 right there. That will be important later. Okay. This one, subtract the x, subtract the 11, get negative 6. Okay. When we have x's on the other side with an absolute value, we must check the answers to see if they actually work. If I put in negative 6, and I'll just go back up to here. If I put in negative 6, I'll have absolute value negative 6 plus 5, which is absolute value negative 1, which is 1. But on the right, I'll have 2 times negative 6 plus 11. 2 times negative 6 is negative 12 plus 11. Negative 12 plus 11 is negative 1. Wait a minute. Did not work. So, you need to check your answers with this. So this one, even though we did everything right, doesn't work, so we reject that answer. It does not work. Now I said negative 5 here. I'm just going to use that to estimate. This is very close to that. If I do 2 times negative 5, I get negative 10, and negative 10 plus 11 is 1, and I'm okay. That's going to work out. So this answer is fine. We'll do one more. One more of the super amazingnesses.
Wait, is this one here?
I want everyone writing this down, but honors definitely has to know how to do these. All right, what should we do in order to solve this?
Multiply.
Multiply by?
3.
Yes. Multiply by 3. That's going to clear our fraction. So we get 4, absolute value 2x plus 3 equals 12x. Now what?
Now you have to divide by 4.
Yep, divide by 4. I'm noticing how the honors have no idea what to do and everyone else does.
That is so true.
Okay, now I have the absolute value piece alone. I split it into 2 possibilities. 2x plus 3 could equal
Negative 3.
negative 3x, or 2x plus 3 could equal
Positive 3. It's
positive 3x. I'll solve this one. I'll add my 3x and get 5x plus 3 equals 0. Subtract my 3 and divide by 5. And over here, I'll subtract my 2x and I get x is 3. Now I need to check my answers. If I put this one in, do you see if I put it in up here, I would get a negative over here? Positive times negative. And can absolute value equal a negative?
no.
No. So we reject that one. I don't even have to do the math on that one. And if I put the 3 up here, I'll get a 12. So I suspect that that one's going to work. So I keep that answer. Okay? Now don't assume that every negative answer doesn't work. It just is probably a higher risk factor that it won't. Okay. Take out your whiteboards and markers. We'll wrap this up.